Hey, welcome. This is going to be the first in possibly a series of videos called Photo Walk with Me, where I go on a photo walk. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. I meant to record the photo walk while I was walking and taking photos, and I did record the video, but I messed up the audio, so here I am recording the voiceover and this little intro after the fact. So let's go ahead and get into it. This is at Carnton Park. I think it's called Carnton Park in Franklin, Tennessee. This is just around sunrise. And I'm shooting with the XH2S and the XF150-600. And I'm looking for birds. And here's some photos of some birds that I took just a day or two before, just to kind of give us an idea of what to expect. Saw some bluebirds and some mockingbirds. And I'm looking for these warblers, and I'm not sure exactly what these are. I think they might be Tennessee warblers, which, even though we are in Tennessee, these are apparently not native to Tennessee. If this is in fact a Tennessee warbler, I'm not really sure. And also sharp-shinned hawks, and these are also not native to Tennessee, but I have photographed them at this park before. These shots were actually taken with the XT5 about a month ago, and I was just at the park earlier in the week, and I noticed, or I think I saw one, and even though they're migratory, I think they might still be around, although I didn't see any during my photo walk, unfortunately. As I'm walking around, just kind of getting my bearings, I noticed this giant hawk flew up into this tree, and I'm not really trying to get good photos of it. I'm just trying to get some shots so I can see what it is. And I believe it's just a red-tailed hawk, but pretty cool nonetheless. And there he goes. So I like to sort of walk around this cemetery because of the wrought iron fence and then all of the headstones and the monuments. They actually make really nice spots to photograph the birds because they are visible. And here's the first shot I got of a warbler. It's not a good shot, but I just thought I would show it anyway. They're really hard to photograph. And that is the tree that I saw the hawk fly into the other day. So I kind of just walked down there to see if I could, maybe see them, but again, they weren't there today, as far as I could tell. As far as camera settings, with the XH2S for bird photography, I primarily shoot in electronic shutter mode, and right now I'm only at 10 frames per second, just because it's so easy to take a gazillion photos rather quickly. Film simulation is set to ASTIA soft, but you can always change that in editing if you want to, but I like that. Apparently I've been shooting in Color Chrome FX Blue week, and I forgot about that. And I'm not sure, I need to do some testing to find out if that's actually applied in raw photos or if it's just something that applies to JPEGs. And here's my focus settings. AFC focus mode I set to all because I like to be able to adjust between the little focus box, make that as big or small as I need to, and then I can quickly adjust it to a zone if I need to do that as well. And you can just do that with the joystick and the back command dial. So I just leave that to all. I also have pre-AF on. I found that's helpful when you are just sort of looking at a subject and you're not really ready to take a photo, then the pre-AF will start tracking it even without you pressing down the shutter or the autofocus on button. And then I do have bird detect on. I do use the subject detection. I find that it works pretty well. I walked by that leaf that's hanging over the wrought iron a million times, and every time I passed it, I thought it was a bird. Oh, so there goes the hawk. Yeah, these aren't great photos, but hell, I just wanted to photograph it. There were a lot of little songbirds and bluebirds in that stand of trees out there. That section of the park is behind a paywall. I took a picture of the house just for fun. And as I mentioned, I like to photograph around these cemetery grounds because of the wrought iron and the monuments. I think it just, the birds tend to land on these and stay for a minute, as opposed to when they're in the trees. They're very obscured by all the branches and leaves, but also they seem to be more active when they're in the trees, looking for food, hiding, doing whatever they do, playing. Kind of like the juxtaposition of the man-made and the birds. And one of the warblers that I had been chasing around all morning landed on that monument. I got some cool photos, but I was so concerned about just framing the bird that I didn't notice that, well, this photo's okay, but I didn't notice on this one that I was sort of photographing through the fence, and it's out of focus, but it is obscuring the bird a little bit, so it's a little bit hazy. Unfortunately, like this shot I think would have been really awesome if I had just moved a fraction of an inch and had an unobstructed view. I'd never seen that kind of pattern in the out of focus stuff. So that's obviously like dew or water droplets, but it's making a really interesting kind of pattern, what my friend Mark Weimels might call bubble bokeh balls. But I like these two shots. They're the best shots of the warblers that I managed to get. Going back to the settings, and for birds, I'm primarily shooting shutter priority. So my front command dial is shutter speed, my rear command dial is exposure compensation. That leaves the aperture and the ISO to be chosen by the camera, depending on the lighting situation. The lens is typically going to be shot wide open because it is a relatively slow lens, especially when you're out past, 450, 500 millimeters, you're at f7.1 to f8. I have the ISO range at this point set to bounce between 160, which is the base, all the way up to 12,800. If there's a lot more light, then I can lower that max setting to say like 3,200 or something. But for now, that is the range. You can see maybe the line of a dirt path out there. A lot of birds were landing there. I imagine they were finding some food. This one I just grabbed of one of the mockingbirds as it poked its head through the wrought iron fence. Thought it was kind of cool. I just included this one of the mockingbird. It's not a great shot, but I was really close. This is probably one of the closest I've ever been to a bird in nature. I just thought it was cool. It's probably one of the most detailed and in focus shots I've ever gotten. I went back later in the day because since my audio didn't record, I wanted to get some just natural sounds of the park, and I managed to mess up that audio recording too, so I don't have that. But I went back later in the afternoon and I actually saw a bald eagle out there, which I wasn't expecting. I did not know that there were eagles in this area, but he was just circling overhead, so I just grabbed a couple of shots. I just tried black and white. I just thought I would do something different because it wasn't a super interesting shot. It was just, underside of the bird flying against a blue sky. A couple of blue jays were feeding together, and I tried to get some shots of them hopping on the ground, and I got maybe one or two, but I really had a hard time getting the focus on them. So I just got this one of one of the blue jays poking through the fence. I think this is a female house finch. I just like this one. I like the geometry of the monuments. I don't know. I could probably crop it better. That's one thing that I really have to work on, I think, is cropping. Anyway, I really appreciate you watching. Let me know if there's anything particular that you'd like to see from these types of videos. If you want to know more about settings, cameras, lenses, like the kind of gear, or techniques and things, like I'm definitely an amateur. And for me, it's a lot of fun just going out there and learning not only about the photography techniques and different things to try, but also just learning about the birds. I don't really know much about birds. I've got a couple friends who are birders, so I often just send them photos and be like, hey, what is this? And they help me identify, especially like those warblers. We're not really sure which kind they are, but if you know, I'd also love to know what you think they are.